Welcome. This is Pain to Power Leading with Love, and I am Brown Girl Interrupting, also known as Maria, and I am your host. And today we are sharing Pain to Power Leading with Love, and we have a special guest that I'm going to be interviewing. And this show is brought to you in association with the iRant Network and Better Minds Interrupting. And I want to just give a big salute to our ranters Union family for pulling up, for showing up and supporting. And then, of course, I know that our very special guest, Daniel Cargie, also known as the Self Love Speaker, has some of his fans and fam joining us as well. So, a shout out to all of you. We're excited for today, and I'm going to welcome my special guest, Daniel Cargie. Hey, Daniel, welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. It's really nice to have you here. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I thought we were starting like an hour from now.
Oh no. So so I guess that was our that was a little bit of a challenge. We got different time frames. So you're coming from
Right, right.
central zone. I'm in the eastern zone. Yeah. So
That's cool.
I appreciate you pulling up in the Eastern Standard Time of 8 o'clock.
Of course.
But I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself to us and who you are, what you do, and then we're just gonna have some conversation tonight.
Yeah, well, my name is Daniel Cargie. I'm from a small country called French Guiana. It's an overseas region of France. And when I was 6, we moved to the Caribbean where my parents are from. And then when I was 21, came here, joined the army. From there, toured the world a little bit, came back to Minnesota, and then hit rock bottom and then started this whole thing that I've started.
Very cool. All right. Well, we're going to learn a little bit more about this thing that you started because it's quite a machine.
It's a movement. It's a
But
movement for sure.
in a good way, in a good way. So the show
Yeah,
itself is Pain to Power Leading with Love because I have been drawn to the message that you send, particularly on TikTok and Instagram. And I know
right,
you also have a YouTube page, but it's this idea that what you've done is you've taken pain, turned it into power, and you're leading others to love themselves, self love, and also
correct.
to learn about relationships. So I wanted to know a little bit more in our conversation about just what has led you in this journey of finding power in pain.
Well, I would say um, I'm the type of person I'm very observant. And growing up, I've witnessed a lot of painful events in my life. And when you see certain things, it makes you feel a certain way. Like you wish you could help, but you're helpless, you know? And then after coming back from Iraq, my tour over there, um, I hit rock bottom, you know, and even in that moment, I felt helpless. But, looking at my parents of how they were living their lives, they're always go-getters. And I was suicidal at one point for 2 years after I hit rock bottom. And the reason why I hit rock bottom was I invested 6 figures, right? And it was an investment that I made to like help my family retire, and these people completely scammed me. Um, and also I went through like multiple relationships that failed, based off of being cheated on and stuff like that. And then all those trauma I've never really healed from. So it was like from one pain to the next, to the next, to the next. And when you go through from one pain to the next without healing it, it becomes piled up like a mountain of pain. And then it just led me to be suicidal. Next thing you know, I was like, well, me and my mom were best friends. We've always had this bond ever since I was a child growing up. And I was like, well, if I go, how how can I tell my mom goodbye without telling her goodbye? That would crush her heart. And then I was like, I have to find a way to fight these demons. Because truth is, what I've learned about being suicidal is that we don't want to kill ourselves. We want to kill a demon within us. And that demon is what I was fighting. And I started by sharing one message at a time. on Facebook, and then people were like, "Oh my God, this message was like right on time," and then it trickled something in me. And I'm like, I'm probably not the only one that's going through this.
Mm.
And then I started Instagram, started sharing quotes, and then everyone was giving me the same feedback. And it started off with me um trying to help others heal through my own experiences, sharing my experience, my wisdom, what I've learned from pain. And at the same time, I was healing from my own pain. They say if you want to heal, you help others heal, and it it somehow happens. I don't know how to explain the concept of helping
Yeah.
others heal to heal, but I'm pretty sure on this journey, you can feel it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
I.
so yeah, and it just went from there. And as I started, rarely did I have male following. I'm a male suffering, but I'm sharing messages to help others heal, only to find out it's nothing but females are following me. And then I'm like, well, how when you gain a following, you're trying to figure out how can you help them, what
Mm.
knowledge and experience and um things that you could do to help them, because now you're gaining a following. What are you supposed to do with this? And I started to reflect, like, what do I know a lot about women, and how can I help them heal? Because I'm also working on myself to heal, but I'm having a female following. So I started to reflect, and I'm like, my mom and me, we used to talk about life a lot. We used to talk about all the things she went through, all the painful events she's experienced, all her wisdom and life lessons. We used to sit on a balcony for hours, in the Caribbean, just look at the stars and just talk about life and in pain and in, what she had done to learn. And that reflection led to now being my purpose. And this is why my messages are geared towards mostly females, because I've always been there for my mom. So
Mm.
when she had to vent, I was the listening ear. When she had to cry, pour her heart out, I was the one catching the pain. And when people ask me, like, how do you know all this stuff, in the summary, I would say I've been carrying my mom's pain in my veins for decades.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's
That's
now like second nature for me to describe a lot of a woman's wounds into wisdom.
That's really powerful. I mean, because what it is, and I always think, what leads us to be able to heal sometimes is not even just our own pain as much as it's others' pain. So you have taken
Exactly.
someone else's pain. Obviously, you've seen your mother experience things and taken that to empower other women, which is huge. And I just have to say, like, I'm really appreciative that you are being so honest and in
Yeah.
your journey, because it's clear that you have gone through some discovery of yourself in this process. You talked a lot about like the messages that you want women to have. Do you have like any particular like direction or like mottos or things that like you really lean into when it comes to those messages? Some key themes, key ideas that are important to you in your messages.
Right. Yeah. Well, mostly like before I hit the record button, I always think about three things, and if it doesn't impact me in this way, I wouldn't even record the message to begin with. So if I'm trying to impact myself, I'm also trying to impact others, and the goal is to help them love themselves, to develop self-worth and healing, and just know yourself as a person, because a lot of times when you don't love yourself, you're seeking that love from other people. And when you don't love you in a sense of high quality, how can you even attract high quality people to return the same? I always hear
Mm.
women talk about, I've been giving love my whole life, but you haven't been giving any to yourself. So what cup have you been pouring from? You know what I mean?
Mm.
And when you're pouring from an empty cup is exhausting, because you don't have any boundaries, so you don't know what boundaries to set. And a lot of my videos are about boundaries. A lot of my videos about um self-worth. And when you don't truly love yourself, you're gonna always settle for things you don't deserve. And when you don't know what you're worth, and when you don't know how to feel your worth, you're always gonna settle for people that makes you feel unworthy. And when you don't
Mm,
heal from your trauma, especially childhood trauma, it leads to adulthood trauma. Because as a child growing up, everything that we've lacked emotionally as a child, we tend to look for it in other people,
mm,
especially in relationships, whether it be friendships. Because like my videos are not just about um, men and women, because I also don't speak for all women, because women hurt women too. The mother-in-laws hurt the
mm.
daughter-in-laws, the auntie hurts the niece, best friends hurt stabbing each other's back. So my goal is to speak for the minute few who chooses to be good but still gets hurt in the process.
Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, like I think that's it. Like it's universal. Pain is
Mm,
universal. And
definitely,
I
yeah.
think the message that you're sending is universal, even though, as you said, like most of your followers are women. Like it's clear though that that message of self love is really important. And I'm just wondering, like in this and in this whole journey, right? My goal here is to have this intimate conversation because I don't know if everybody knows, but I don't think you've shared a lot of these stories with anybody else, right? I think like this is
Not yet.
that
No, no.
you share a lot of your messages, but not everybody knows who you are. So I've just wondered, like, as we're learning about you, what is it that has influenced you in terms of you talked about, growing up in French Guiana with your mom and your relationship with your mom, but just culturally, like, what has been the influence of culture in these messages for you also?
Well, like I said, growing up, I've witnessed a lot of painful events, and those painful events are, you know, um, because the village I grew up in, the country I grew up in, there's a lot of domestic abuse. There's a lot of women that are getting abused by their husbands, and um, I've witnessed a lot of that stuff. Like one that I witnessed was this my neighbor actually. And I was in my early teens, and he picked up a piece of wood and just beat the hell out of his wife, and he had 4 kids, and he was a drunk. And I've constantly witnessed that type of stuff. And I'm not saying all men are like this, and I hope that people are not thinking like I'm bashing men. There are good men out there, because my goal is to open the hearts of women that are being abused, to find love, self-love, heal, and then hopefully one day they attract a good man, because there are good men out there. But if I don't wake your heart up to find yourself through what you've
Mm,
been through, you can never heal through what you've been through to find somebody new and somebody better. Because you're always going to feel like you deserve what you've always been settling for, you know? And
mm,
these painful events that I've seen are not just one, they're multiple. Even, my own relatives I've seen. I mean, when you see stuff like that all the time, you think it's normal until you grow up and you're like, you choose a different path and you're like, because I grew up amongst a lot of misogynistic men who think that women are nothing but domestic slaves, cook, clean, take care of the household, and all they think that their job is to bring home money, financial stability. And even that alone they don't even, they can't provide. So when you've seen a lot of that stuff, you're like, that's not right. And there's not a lot of men that speak up for good women, or even women at all. And not to say I'm a feminist or anything, but to inspire women. When you look up on YouTube, especially because I've did the search, I've done the research. If you type in motivation for women, what do you see? It's only women who want to be entrepreneurs. But what about the woman that has 5 kids, a messed up husband, a 9 to 5? She's trying to start a business, or she's trying to find inspiration just to survive the day. Because a lot of women are just on survival mode. They're just trying
mm,
to survive the next day, because they've been through so much. They don't know how to deal with trauma, how to deal with pain. And whenever they voice their pain, it sounds like either they're a victim, or they're always complaining, or, they're never satisfied. But the thing is, no one listens. So my goal is to turn a good woman's pain into words, so that she can really hear out loud what she's really going through, and she can have a better perspective, because each of my videos, they have captions. They could read that caption and gain some sort of knowledge, some sort of wisdom, and apply it in their lives. And a lot of things are easier said than done, but nothing is ever easier done than said. So you have to take action, right?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like the thing and the connection between the everyday experiences. Pain is something that so many people carry on just their
Hmm.
everyday existence, right? Of just surviving, of just trying
Definitely.
to make it through and be strong enough for their children, for themselves, for the people that that are looking to them, right?
Hmm.
So I think this idea of like the self love journey and understanding and healing through that is really powerful. And and I have to say, like, so when I looked at your stuff, I myself have been in this healing space of like in a journey of trying to
Hmm.
figure things out after leaving a marriage. And so I can see that draw, right? Definitely. You say a lot about, and you've used this phrase a lot of times, good women, right? And if you're thinking, so we've got a range of people here in the audience. I think I saw some comments that maybe we can bring up from the chat. The Messy Mathematician says, I love your videos and captions are excellent. That's awesome. You've got
Thank
quite a
you.
following. Behind the Bar, who's part of our Ranchers Network, the Salute Brown Girl Interrupting. Salute to you, Behind the Bar. Thanks for pulling up. And so I think the question is, so like how do you define that? Like what is it exactly? Because you do have men that you watch. I mean, I've got there's some guys in the audience right now. What is that when you say a good woman? What
Well,
does that mean?
a good woman to me is a woman who wears a heart on her sleeves. And I always say this a lot, you know, a woman who goes out of her way to make, not just make others happy, but make them feel how she wants to feel. Because I'm not saying that, you know, um there aren't any narcissistic women, because there are women who take advantage of women. There are women who see a woman that's married to a good man and she will go out of her way to try to steal that man. And sis, if anybody ever steal your man, he was never yours to begin with.
Oh,
Okay?
yeah, that's
So if
that's a good
any of y'all
point.
that listen here,
Solidly.
all right? But when it, think about the women that try to destroy you, right? The opposite to that would be a good woman. You know what I mean? So if a woman is trying to disrespect your relationship, what do you do as a good woman? You try to empower that relationship, right? So everything that a bad woman does is basically opposite. And for me, like I said, a good woman is somebody who wears their heart on their sleeves, go out of their way to not just please others and be a people pleaser, but she also knows her boundaries. She's not just good to others, but she's good to herself. She's ambitious.
Mm,
She go after whatever she wants. She listens to people's opinions, but she doesn't take it to heart. She doesn't let other people define her destiny. She defines her own destiny.
mm,
A woman that strives to not just be better, but have her surroundings be inspired by her to be better too. So it's not so much, it's not so much as like a good, what is a good woman. I speak for women who do good things. But in order
mm,
to title a video, you have to put good women, because that's what people are searching for. That's what people want to see in a title. So it's mostly for titling purposes. But I speak for women who goes out of their way to make the people around them feel loved,
mm,
and share compassion and empathy. And she requires the same energy, the same effort, and the same things
mm,
that she's invested into them should also be invested into her. And if she's not getting the same in return, then she shouldn't be there. She shouldn't be where she doesn't feel like she's wanted or belong.
mm. But I think that there's a lot of women who don't know that, right? So like when you described it just now, you said like they give in their relationships, they're nurturing, they're always, like they're helping the relationship, right? But I think that a lot of times that's where it stops. And I would imagine for a lot of the people who maybe are following you, that's where it stops, where it doesn't go necessarily. And I'm going to speak for myself in this, is that we that knowing and self-love of ourselves is the missing piece, right? That's a big thing that
Right.
that you definitely talk a lot about. So Katie Reviews in the chat saying people who are hurting hurt others. Yeah, hurt
That
people
is true.
hurt
That is
people
true.
hurt people. And we have my co-host Better Minds interrupting from the podcast here. Peace and love, family and chat. Thank you for pulling up, lovely tea. And so like I think like it's interesting to me, right? Like, because that is the missing piece for women. But I think the thing that it's twofold, and this is why I kind of wanted to start this show, because for me it's highlighting that yes, you have a lot of female followers, but I think there are a lot of males that could benefit from hearing some of the things you
Definitely, yeah.
say,
Men need to
because
love themselves too.
and understand what it is that they're not doing. So just like there's good women and like you said, right, people, good women who do good, right, there need to be men who do good too. And if you were to give a message to those men, right, like the men who are watching, the men who come are here, like what is it that is pulling back or stopping some men from being able to be those men who do good for all these women who are doing good for them?
Man, that's a topic that might take about 3 hours.
All right, I would agree. Okay, yeah, that's a long one, right? I got a laundry list for you too. But if you were to say, like, what do you think is probably sometimes
Okay,
the the
I
the
would
biggest
say
barrier for men to be able to do that?
peer pressure is one, because a lot of times a man want to be good to a woman, right? But he'll listen to his friends and be like, "Well, wow, since you got that girl, you don't talk to us no more. You don't make time for us no more." Well, who is he building a life with? That peer pressure goes into his head, and he's like, "Wow, this woman is trying to control my time, control me, control my life." And he's thinking this woman wants to control him, take his money, and all of this stuff, right? That's peer pressure. Now, another one is he's listening to all these music. Music is nothing but corruption. It can either inspire you or expire you, right? And when you listen to certain music, excuse my language, but there's this one with Chris Brown that said these hoes ain't loyal. Now, if you keep listening to this over and over and over, you indoctrinate yourself like a child. It's like these kids learning ABC. You're learning ABC, but you're learning it in this higher level where it's controlling the decisions you make and how you treat people. You keep listening to these music, these friends. Now you're watching either TV shows, movies that are showing um how men are treating women and how they're taking it and how it's normal. Maybe I should do the same. And they're taking dating advice from men who hate women to pursue women. Now, if you take advice from them, how are you going to pursue a woman and keep her? You're not going to treat her right. You know what I mean? You're never going to understand her because you're listening. Let me tell you something. For, for, for most men, though, the thing is, what I would say mostly, if for men to understand women on an emotional level, is for them to have a good bond with their mothers,
Hmm.
because a lot of people will disagree with me here, but a father, his responsibility is not to teach his son how to treat women. His sole responsibility is to teach him how to survive, how to become ambitious and successful, and how to provide and protect that woman. But only a woman knows her own emotions, and she is supposed to instill compassion and empathy and humility into that son, to understand that woman from her perspective, how she wants to be understood. Teach that understanding to him, and whenever he talks to women, he knows. You hear me? But there was someone who said she disagreed because she grew up with her father that taught
Hmm.
her um that taught his sons how to treat women, which can be good, but who taught him? You see what I'm saying? His mom taught him.
So that's interesting, because I must say I would have to push back a little bit, because so I have sons, and I think there's a lot of things I've taught my sons, but I would say that without a male role model, because boys do gravitate towards the men, they and it's
Right,
unconscious. It's kind of like what you're saying about peer pressure and music, right?
right,
Like messages can be around you even if they're not being told to you, right? You just
right.
see
So
things.
subliminal messages, yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, I think, like, there definitely is an impact of fathers giving the messages of how they treat. So it may not be the message of like what they're saying, but more of what they're doing. So their actions certainly influence what boys and young men are doing and see as the right way to treat
Right.
women, to be with women, right? Um And so I see Katrina is in the chat. Katrina Mir, that is so true. Young men need better role models on how to treat women. Yeah,
So that is true.
but their moms are definitely an influence. Like so, but I would say it's layered. It's layered. Those messages are all layered.
It is.
Um,
It is. For me though, I've never had a good role model. So for me to turn out this way is it took a lot of unlearning, and it took the inspiration that I've gotten from my mom. You know what I mean? But everyone's different, and everyone's cut from a different cloth, and everyone perceive information differently. You know, but like if I were to give an advice though, it would be towards mothers. Like, don't have your son and then just let them play video games all day. Don't let them watch TV all day. Talk to them, bond with them. You know what I mean? And also, yes, for the fathers, show your sons how well you're treating that mother, how well you're protecting her. Because it's not just about protecting and providing, but how are you providing her emotional support? How are you providing her mental support? Because mental and emotional abuse is a thing too.
oh
You know,
God, yeah.
you don't have to physically beat someone
No.
for it to be abuse. You know, you can traumatize someone mentally and emotionally. And what is it called now in 2022? Gaslighting. You know what I mean? Like that's a big thing. You know,
Yeah.
so yes,
Yeah.
they do need good role models for men, of course. I agree with that. But on the emotional understanding part, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Mm-hmm.
like only a mother can explain that understanding because it's coming from within, her spirit, her soul, you know. But a man can only treat a woman based on what he understands and how he understands. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like a woman would be able to explain more of what she needs, is the need part. You know what I mean? I hope I make sense.
Yeah, no, no, I definitely think that does make sense, and I think like it's again like there's a different kind of message, right? So a
Right, right,
woman gives a different kind of message, and I think I just saw something in the chat here. If we want to go to the chat real quick, and if we have any questions in the chat, we can take some before we move on to some more questions from me because I want to get a little bit deeper into understanding you, just you personally, and your
right.
journey. Um, and so I think we can, if we have any questions in the chat, we'll take those, or we can just kind of move it along. I saw something come up there, I think. Um, but so as I'm listening to you, and I've
Mhm.
watched a lot of your videos, I think there's like a little underlying connection for you, it seems like, in spirituality. And I know in our conversation we kind of started talking a little bit about that, but I'm just wondering, like, in this whole journey for you personally, like not just your messages, but just you as Daniel, having gone through your own, rock bottom, watching things in your community, watching your mom go through things, like everything, right, that you've taken in, where has spirituality played a role for you in helping you in this healing, in this ability to take pain and turn it into power?
Mm. I would say a lot of reflection, because reflection is probably one of the biggest thing in spirituality. Reflecting who you are, um, who you were, who you are now, who you're trying to become, and what impact you're trying to, leave into this world. Um, I wouldn't say any of it had anything to do deeply with, being spiritual, but um, I don't know. I've been asked by my cousin's wife. She was like, "What do you want to do for the rest of your life? Like, what would be a dream come true?" And I said, "I want to inspire millions of people." And that was way before I started this. It was a year before I started, right? And then I started it, and lo and behold, now I have inspired millions of people. But I would say, me connecting with my mom for like over 3 decades has led me to this. Because like I've said, I've witnessed my mom going through a lot in life, and she never had anyone to like understand her, or coach her or help her cope or anything. It was just me, and I was 3 years old doing this, you know. So I felt like I was more like molded to pursue this versus having a spiritual experience to start this, you know? I think the only spiritual experience I had to start this was mostly reflection to connect the dots of why am I doing this? Because I've ran away from doing this about 3 times now. I quit. I went on a social media detox. I was like, I'm not doing this. It's too toxic. It's too much. So many DMs. I can't keep up. And then I feel like an imposter. I started to have this imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to give advice? And I just shut everyone out. And then I took about a couple months. And then I'm at work and I'm like, I have so much I want to say. And then I'm like,
Mm,
okay, I need to start this again. And then I started and then I quit. And then I started and I quit. On the third time, after the third time, I was like, you know what? This thing keeps calling me.
mm,
I'm not going to quit now, you know? And when something keeps calling you, that's basically your purpose calling you? And I feel like it was meant to happen. Maybe if I had a bond with my dad, a strong bond or a strong bond with men growing up, it would have been a different case. It would have been a different story. But I think because I had a strong bond when I was 3 with my mom growing up, that that kind of led me to it. And then when I was in high school, I've always had like females coming up to me asking me for advice. I'm 15, 16. I don't even know anything about the world. You're coming to me for advice? But I guess I had that
mm.
face and that aura that just like, okay, let me tell you all my problems. I've always had that since I was a kid. I don't know if it happens to you, but some people feel like they can tell you
Yeah.
all their problems and they just trust you to have the answer. And lo and behold, I don't have all the answers. I just know what I know, and I share that. And if it helps, my goodness, it helps. And like
Well,
I've had multiple DMs from women saying, "You saved me from committing suicide." Um, I cried when I seen a few of those, and I was like,
mm,
"Okay, how can I quit now? I just saved a couple women from committing suicide. Like that's big. I'm shaking right now just talking about it.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like this is it. Maybe my purpose will change one day. Who knows? But I feel like this is it now, and I'm just going with how I feel like I should make an impact on the world.
Thanks. No, and I mean that purpose is purposeful for so many people, right? Like
Yeah,
I have seen the comments that your followers have, and like seen the way that they really truly believe in everything you say. And Smile 69 Network is here transferring energy. Yes, and I was thinking that, right, that this is energy. Thanks for pulling up, V. And that definitely salute to the panel and chat. And I want to say, right, like I think I wonder if sometimes it's energy, right? So it's not even that maybe you have all the answers, but rather your authenticity and your
that
energy.
yeah,
It draws people in. And I want to ask you something about that, but I see the messy mathematician says something. I love how my son shares his experiences with girls with me. He's a teen and I give him the feedback he's looking for. I also ask him about what he sees from his dad and how he treats his sisters. That's great, right? Like there's the balance of both perspectives in there. Thanks for
yeah.
sharing that. And Robbie Cooper, Roberta Cooper, some people are easy to talk to and have a listening ear and good advice. That's a good thing. Definitely. And I think that people are gravitate towards that, right? So like this idea of authenticity, I think I know that you and I have talked a little bit about it, but tell me like where does that play a role in your own life and like why is that so important to you this like having that authenticity?
Well, one, my content keeps me accountable. As a man, it keeps me accountable. You know, um, and then two, I've seen a lot of like fake influencers, and I cannot be somebody that just preach but not practice what he preaches. You know what I mean? That just makes me a fake person. And I hate fake energy and fake people with a passion so much that if I'm gonna do something on camera and then be different off camera, I would hate myself. And I grew up 26 plus years, hating a lot of things about myself. And that's why I ended up going on a self-love journey. But authenticity is key for me. And it helped me to find my voice. Because when I first started this, I was struggling to find my voice. And when you struggle to find your voice, a lot of times when you see other speakers and hear other speakers, because I've listened to multiple speakers, you try to copy them. And when you're trying to copy people, you will never find you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So if you're trying to copy somebody else, how can you bring out the best in you when you're copying somebody else's best? And when you copy someone else's best, one, you put a block on your own, you sabotage that path, and then now you will always look weak because
Mm.
you're a weak version of the person you're copying any day. Unless you're an actor and all you're doing is you're rehearsing scripts after scripts after scripts, and you're not even becoming the best you're becoming a character. I don't want to be a character. I want to be that this
Mm.
guy that, okay, when my messages are there and I'm not anymore, people can say, hey, because of him, I've been inspired to do a lot with my life. You know, I was once overweight. I lost all that weight. I was once in an abusive marriage. I got out. I had the courage to walk away. I've had my family took advantage of me, but I said no more. I put my foot down. Like I've had best friends that stabbed me, but I still kept that toxic relationship. But because of Daniel, no more. I know my worth. I'm gonna walk away from things that no longer serves my happiness, my peace. You know, and
Mm.
um doesn't like bring nothing but stress in my life. What's the point of sticking around? So authenticity for me is being able to express my message in a way where I don't have to think about what I need to say, but express what comes from the soul. And so
Mm-hmm.
long as it comes from within, I will never run out of anything to say.
Mm.
And that's why authenticity is so key for me. Like people who are fake online, they always have to go on Pinterest to find content. They always got to go on Google to find content. Like you don't need inspiration when it comes from within, you know?
Mm.
And that's just me. It's probably different for everyone, but that's how I find my content. I find my content from within. And if you Google my content, you'll never find it.
Right. Well, because it's you, it's your voice, right?
It's
But
me.
and that I think is where you get the trust, and that's really important in this role of people who are motivational speakers, and in just the sharing of, I think, the healing journey that's on social media, like that trust is so important.
Yeah.
And would you like, what do you think it is that makes strangers trust you, right? Because you've got like followers after followers, so many people, and these are strangers, but they trust you. They trust you to advise them. They trust you to hold their pain with grace and kindness, right? What is it that is allowing them to trust you in your mind, or have you been told even, like, that helps you to, and how does that influence like the way you approach all of this?
Well, I would say like, okay, when you communicate with someone, right, and you trust them, it was based on how they communicated with you, how they reciprocate your energy, how they understood you, right? And you build that trust off there. But for me on social media, that's a different scale. It's not easy to trust people on there because, so many people are scams and catfishes. But for me as a content creator, I think in order to build trust is how you communicate. And you will never find a video of mine unless it's a funny video. But if it's a video to inspire, there's a long caption on there. And you can only say so much in 19 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So I go out of my way to, you know, put whatever knowledge and wisdom I have and I share it on there. And also, I shared my stories. I share a lot of inspirational stuff in my stories, a lot of healing content in my stories. Like I'm not the type of person that just make a video and chase clout. Like I'm not trying to chase, like try to gain people's attention. I'm trying to inspire you. And in order for me to inspire you, I can't inspire you with just a 19-second video. I think within me it takes more. I need, okay, you've given me 19 seconds of audio. Now what can I do with this audio? So I think
But
that's where the
it's
trust
hard to
that
build trust in 19 seconds. That's not an
it,
easy task,
right?
right?
Yeah. So I mean, I the to write a caption is about what, uh I think it's over 500 to 700 words per caption. You know what I mean? And for me to type that out in like 30 minutes every day, that has to give credibility somehow. I can't force you to trust me, but I know with the energy I put in, I know that's what I'll get back.
Mm,
So if I trust that you'll take my knowledge and wisdom and apply it into your life, you have to trust me. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
actually a bold statement. You don't have to trust me, but you know what I mean. If you trust that what I'm telling you is coming from the heart and you can feel it, that trust will build automatically.
Yeah, and energy is a big piece of that for sure. And
Hmm.
I would say, like, so I think a lot of times also, what I've noticed, and I share content. Mine is not as much as you, but like, that idea of vulnerability is really important too, right? Like people have to see that you are human, right? Like
Right, right.
that's a big piece of it. Is there what what is probably something that you have been vulnerable with, or that you have like learned in this journey of being able to be vulnerable with, that maybe you didn't think you were going to be able to share with people?
Wow, that's a good one. I remember starting a different Instagram account, um, and it was to inspire people to become entrepreneurs, right? And I'm still working a 9 to 5, but I was trying to inspire people to become entrepreneurs, to chase their dreams. And I'm like, it hit me like, why would you inspire people to become entrepreneurs when you're still stuck at a 9 to 5? Like, who are you to inspire people to do things you're not even doing?
Mm,
You're an imposter. You're fake. You're not authentic, you know? And I was listening to a podcast, and this is why we all really need to listen to podcasts because you learn so much. But
and listen to this one. Right, pain to power,
please
leading
do.
with love.
Um,
Devious Wilson says, salute to Brown Girl and Daniel supporters at your dream platform. I'm watching now. Amazing, thank you for being here. And yeah, sorry Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah. So I gave up on that Instagram, not because I wanted to give up, but because it wasn't who I am. And I can't share who I am to other people. I can't even share an understanding because nothing I'm sharing, I don't even understand. I was Googling a lot of quotes. I was, looking at Pinterest, trying to find things to help
Hmm.
others to be inspired. I was going on different Instagram accounts, trying to see what they're doing and trying to do the same. Again, copying other people. And you cannot inspire people by being a copy. You got to be an
No.
original. And
Yeah.
I was listening, and the podcast said, if when you put out a message, if you can't move yourself, if you can't convince yourself, how can you convince other people? You know what I mean? So I
Hmm.
spent days after days perfecting my craft on how to communicate, how to be a communicator. And I think the best way to be a speaker is to communicate, create, but to, learn to communicate. And I wouldn't even say that I'm even the best that I want to be right now. But I'm good enough to where I can start. And this is just the beginning, you know? And I think that's where it came from.
Thank you. Like, and that's huge. Like, I think one, thanks for sharing and being vulnerable, right? But that idea, like you said, you have to convince yourself before you convince other people.
Right.
And I think like that is sometimes, it's a challenge though. Being vulnerable is a challenge because you're exposing something about yourself, right? Like, so for you, that the story you just shared, right? You expose that you didn't know everything, and sometimes when people are looking to you for knowledge, you may feel like you need to know everything. So that ability to say, and I think just in terms of this whole framing of like pain to power, leading with love, that's part of this journey of finding your power in your pain, is admitting that you don't know everything, that
Yeah.
you have to learn things still, right? There's so many lessons to still learn. I think we have some questions in the chat, but I'm going to let us take a quick break. We have a commercial. I have, so those of you who are here with us today, I am Brown Girl Interrupting, as I said. And I also, in addition to this show, have blog where I write about my story of coming from pain to power after a 17-year marriage that was pretty damaging, and I did a lot of healing from. So check out some of my. Hi, my name is Maria, but you are soon going to know me as Brown Girl Interrupting. And what I mean by that is that very soon, hopefully, you're going to be following my blog. I am a writer, and I started writing because I was married, I had children, and then my life changed when I separated, and I did a lot of learning and reflecting and growing in that process of change, because change always leads us to that. And I've decided to share that with the rest of the world, because sometimes hearing that someone else is going through the same thing as you, or understanding and putting words to the feelings and experiences we're having, helps us to heal from them, or grow from them, or learn from them. And so that's what my blog is. It's writing about life, healing, relationships, parenting, dating, marriage, pain, love, mistakes, growth, and coming out whole still in all of it as a human, flawed, but always open to new things. So that's my life, that's my journey, and it's written in this blog. But my hope is that you are going to go to www.browngirlinterrupting.com and join and subscribe to the blog and read all about my story to help you maybe gain some perspective on yours. All right, yeah, so please, if you haven't done it yet, go to www.browngirlinterrupting.com and read some of my blog posts. And Ravi says, I will also check out Daniel's video. Thank you. This was great, Brown Girl Interrupting. Well, we're not done just yet. I actually have just a few more things. We do have Janetta Devane is here. Hi, welcome, Janetta. So glad that you could make it. I know she's one of your big fans, Danielle.
Oh yeah.
So my final question for you, and it's funny because actually after that commercial, I was thinking, I said coming out whole. And for me, I'm discovering that I probably thought I came out a little bit wholer than I actually did, right? So what I've in the last 3-4 months really done is I've done all this healing and kind of figuring out my pain, and I've discovered about myself these pieces that I didn't see before. For me particularly, it was my ego and where that fit in all of my decisions and choices, and like
Yeah.
how that's impacted me. But like in your journey, in this process, like what have you found out about yourself, good and bad? Just like what do
I
you know now about you that you didn't understand before?
I would say I think I have to touch on the vulnerability part because I had some more to add to it, but I'll continue it with this one too. I would say ego is one. As as a man growing up, I was never taught compassion. How to have compassion for someone else. How to have empathy. Those things. I think those are. Some people are naturally born with them. And I think it more towards women. They're naturally born to be the givers, the caregiver, the nurturer, and all of that. But we're born to hunt and protect and all of this. And I don't think a man should always be her the whole time. Like just be the hunter, be the provider and the protector and all that. Like he should be more emotionally in tune with himself. You know what I mean? Like I grew up in a time um where men are so toxic in my environment, the environment I grew up in. They're so toxic. Like if you express emotions, you're a female. You know if you talk about emotions, you're basically a female, or if you watch any shows that have to do with crying, because you could watch a movie and at the end you're like, oh my god, where did this come from? You know what I mean? And you're like, oh my,
Yeah.
whoa, you cried, bro? That's female stuff, bro. Like, hold up now. You know what I mean? Like I grew up in a time where men are not allowed to express themselves, and if you do, you get labeled harshly. And I grew up thinking, and that's how a man should be. And little did I know I was completely wrong. I had to unlearn everything, and this now ties into ego. A man will only change so long as he gets rid of what he has learned about being a man from toxic men. Because you cannot, I'm not saying a good man is a yes man. A good man has boundaries too. You know what I mean? But if you want to be good to people, a better man, good to your wife or whoever is your partner, like you have to have understanding, compassion, empathy. All these emotions, they play a big role,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't take away from your manhood. And that I had to learn the hard way,
Mm.
because I remember I was talking to someone years ago and she was like, "You're rough around the edges."
How'd you take that one? Right? Like that's ouch.
My
All
ego
right.
was like, "What the hell do you mean I'm rough around the edges? Are you calling me diamonds?" But I was like, I was in the army at the time too, So I was overseas in Iraq and she was in New York, and it was a long distance thing, but she was like, "You rough around the edges." And out of every conversation we've ever had, I remember that one. That only
Mm-hmm.
one, you rough around the edges. And it wasn't until I hit rock bottom I realized that I'm not just rough around the edges with people, I'm rough around the edges with myself. So I'm
Mm.
projecting that onto people. And that's where self love comes in. You- Who you are, whether you're dark or light, you project that onto people. You know what I mean? People can feel my light now because I'm shining from the inside. But when people were saying I'm hard to approach, I'm rough around the edges because I had all this darkness. I wasn't willing to be vulnerable. And the reason why a lot of us men are not even willing to be vulnerable is because we think emotional is only supposed to be on a woman's side. But no, we're supposed to be emotional too. We have them. So why not express them? You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like it's not
Yeah.
like most of the men that I grew up around, they're motivated, their emotions only tied to money and power and alcohol. Money, power, alcohol, and sex. Other than that, they're not emotionally in tune. And for any brothers on here that are listening to me, man, learn to love yourself. Don't
Mm.
feel like it's only a woman's job to self love. Sure, my following is huge in with females and with self love and whatnot. But there's quite a few brothers that message me and say, "Hey, thank you, bro. Like your messages have enlightened me in such a way that it has changed the way I'm thinking about how they should treat their wives and whatnot." And I just hope that when a guy do listens to my videos, they don't think I'm trying to attack them, because I'm not trying to attack nobody. A lot of times it's just that when you when you try to voice a woman's pain, it might trigger some people that are causing that pain.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
you're a man that's causing this woman the very pain that I'm voicing, it's gonna trigger you. Understand that that's okay. Trigger means like, okay, I'm actually doing this, so what can I do different? But if you're triggered with ego, you're not going to change. But if you're triggered with compassion, this is why I talked about compassion and empathy. You got to have those, because compassion and empathy is what tames the ego. And if you can't
Mm.
tame the ego, you will always destroy every relationship you have, not even with a woman, but with good male friends. You know what I mean? Good friends, coworkers, whatnot. You're always going to be, bad at everywhere you go.
Yeah, the ego is a true destructive
It's a
force. It really,
destructor right
really
there. Yeah.
is. But I think like you said it, right? Compassion is universal. There's no gender in compassion. It truly is universal. And the strongest men to me, I think of my father as like a truly strong man, but what I remember about him was his immense amount of compassion, right? That
I wish
strength
I had
came
that.
through in the love that he had. And it comes in different forms in your life, right? Yes, I was fortunate that it was my dad, and particularly as a girl, I think I was really fortunate. I will say that it has probably been the hardest thing for me to find in a man since, because compassion is not something that men are comfortable with, right? Like that ego really, really does get in the way. And I appreciate that, you know, you're saying that the goal is that I hope that men are triggered in a way where they are awakened by the things you say. Like that's the goal. To me, hearing what you say, it's not that it's a trigger of your ego and your ego shuts you down, but rather that their egos are awakened to recognize that they're present and there's a reason they're feeling like
Right.
maybe they've done those things, right? So I know we are about to finish up, but I wanted to see if there were any questions in the chat for you, from anyone. I think you've got some new followers from our Ranters family, and then I know some of my other family and friends are
Mm.
in here. Katie Revive says, I have never seen any of Daniel's videos, but now I'm intrigued and will check them out. I feel your sincerity. Yes,
Oh, thank
definitely.
you so much.
Definitely. In the one conversation before this that I've had with Daniel, I definitely felt his sincerity. And he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's got a great message, and there's a reason there are so many women who truly follow his message in a way where it is helping them heal. And so I would love to have you back one day, to
Oh,
come
sure,
and
yeah.
join us and talk more about pain to power and healing with love. Before we go, are there any projects or anything you want to share with the audience, or just tell them how to reach you, where to reach you?
If you type in self-love speaker anywhere, even in Google, you'll find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Um, as for projects, I only have what I'm doing right now, creating content to inspire, but hopefully one day I create a women's mental health app. And, it'll be an app that helps to, help you cope. It'll put you in groups with women who have been through similar experiences, and you guys can share, be vulnerable, and heal with no judgment. But that's in the works. I also do one-on-one sessions. It's a 7-day session. So anyone who's interested in, you know, um, learning to break through their negative thoughts that they have, or you're going on a healing journey, learning to love yourself, breaking bonds with a version of yourself that you don't like, and reinventing yourself. Like, I have sessions for almost anything that you are struggling with. I don't have all the answers, but you best believe I've learned a lot about how the mind works, how the emotion works, and from my own experiences and dealing with multiple people. So yeah, if you are ever interested, you know where to find me. uh I think that's all I have for now.
That's plenty. That's plenty. Thanks for, and again, thanks for sharing. So, and to all of you that are watching, whether you're streaming live here with us or watching us after the fact, thank you for being here, for supporting, for being in the chat and interacting. Salute to the whole family. I have to say salute to, again, my producer Geologic and my executive producer to Trinita Palmer, or better known as my better half, who is on Better Minds Interrupting, which is the spiritual healing podcast that we do on 9 o'clock. Also, that comes on this channel, as well as Better Minds Interrupting on Thursday evening. So definitely tune in for more spiritual healing, and continue to follow me on this journey of discovering all the ways and all the people that are transformatively taking pain and turning into power to lead with love. And continue to do your self-love, your healing, be compassionate, and grow with me. So I look forward to seeing you all next week at 9 o'clock on Sunday Eastern Standard Time for another episode of Pain to Power, Leading with Love.